Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.
Welcome to the Central PA Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast. My name is Chad Eisenhart. Each week I go to the local real estate meetups in York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and rebroadcast the meetup in their entirety. Whether you're a new real estate investor just looking to get started or own 100 doors, meetups are a great place to connect with other like-minded individuals, including buying and selling your deals, and staying up to date with what's new in your local market. I'm a buy and hold investor focused on single-family, multifamily, and self-storage in York, PA, and can be found at chadbuys.com. This week, I'm at the Real Estate Investing Mastermind Group of Lancaster, hosted by Chuck Sirk. This evening's speakers are Kris Kaufman and Dan Gotwalt. Dan and Kris were childhood friends and formed a real estate partnership in 2015. To date, they have acquired over 100 doors of multifamily, flipped over 40 residential properties, and are currently developing a large-scale office building in downtown Lancaster with an international tenant. Dan and Kris discuss how they got started in real estate, how they have stayed friends and have not killed each other, how they divide their duties, taking down their first deal, a 30-unit in Manheim, PA, how they decided to buy a commercial property in downtown Lancaster and working with equity partners, and most importantly, when they decided to pay themselves. And now, on to this week's episode. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Kris Kaufman. This is Dan Gotwalt. We are business partners, and we are here to talk about REI partnership. Will make or break you. And it's a little more dismal than, teamwork makes the dream work. This is probably more of a reality of what partnership is. I got to remember that I got to stand to the side so you guys can actually see the slides. Anyway, so our parent company is Firm Foundations, LLC, and let's jump into it. A little bit of our background. Obviously, we are goofballs, so I assure you that we do know what we're talking about when it comes to partnership, but we like to have fun. That is a picture of us whenever we were, quote unquote, remediating asbestos. Don't tell anybody. My name is Kris Kaufman. I got into real estate back in 2013. I was working at Franklin and Marshall College. I had a very low-paying job. I probably made $30,000 a year. I worked in a box truck. I was the lowest man on the totem pole, so I worked in the back of a box truck. I just sat back there in between work orders. Some days we didn't have anything to do, so I just sat back there. And I was always good at buying stuff low and selling high. I used to have a Lego business, a couple things here and there. And I said, what can I do with my time back here? And how can I make the most money buying low and selling high? And I stumbled on real estate. And I think I started learning real estate in 2007, 2008, just reading books. And then in 2013, I bought my first single family house using grandma's money. Was it actually grandma's money? It was actually grandma's money. Yes, it actually was. I still have the loan with her to this day, actually. We're getting ready to pay her back. No, she's very much still alive. So that was until about 2015 when we formed Firm Foundations, me and Dan as a partnership. I went full-time in 2017, so I'll let Dan tell you a little bit about himself.
So I have a trades background. My name is Dan Gotwalt. I'm a trim carpenter by trade. I went right out of high school and started working for my father-in-law down at a place called Advanced Trim and Kitchens. It used to be Advanced Trim Specialties. I worked there since ninth grade, and I learned a trade. I went to two classes of business school at Hack and hated it. It was just dismally boring. And anyway, so I just went out and started trimming. I did that for about 10 years, went in the office for about 5 of that, and then felt like I was supposed to go out on my own, started finishing basements, doing additions, things of that nature. It was right when everyone had not a whole lot of money to do that, but I survived on family and friends and people who wanted to do things and took me in as their charity case. But I do good really. I really take pride in my work. So there were a lot of people that wanted a really good, nice basement job. So that's what I was doing. Then I bought my first rental in 2011. I had a line of credit on my house. We had worked two incomes for several years and had some equity in our house, and that's how I bought my first place. It was a 3-unit on Manor Street, still have it to this day, and it's like cash flows like a mamma jamma. And we just started going from there. I bought about 14 doors on my own, and then we met up at a party, and the rest is history. So that's where we're at.
All right, so current assets and projects that we have going on. Since 2015, we've purchased over 100 doors between here and Florida. We've flipped over 40 residential properties. This is a current project that we had going on, which is downtown across from Manny Bailey's, 29 East King Street. It was 80,000 square feet that was vacant when we bought it. We came together, worked with an international tenant, Woodstream out of Lidditz, who brought their corporate headquarters downtown, did a full makeover inside and out. We don't really have any interior pictures up here, but that's just finished up. It's just finishing up now. New Holland Coffee Company's coming in over here, and then we're working with another tenant possibly over here that we're working on lease negotiations. So that's just wrapping up. All right, so I'm sure there's probably, I don't know how many of you guys are actually in real estate. My question would be, have any of you guys ever had a business partner? We know Chuck has. There he is. Okay, so a few of you have or do have a business partner. Essentially, how many of you guys have been married? Or are married? We'll say are. So almost all of you can relate to marriage. There seems like a lot of you in here. So having a business partner in marriage is essentially the same thing. It's constant personal sacrifice. You have your ups and downs and no sex. That's what I put it at. Just kidding, honey. I had to do it. Just kidding. She'll make sure that's an accurate statement if I don't take it back. But in all honesty, partnership, just like marriage, has the ability to be one of the most amazing decisions you've ever made in your life if it is done right. So that's what we're going to talk about here, which leads us to this. It can easily be the single most effective tool in propelling your real estate career to the next level, or it can easily be the single most destructive tool crippling all future REI growth. So I'm going to kind of go into the types of REI partnerships. We're going to go through this really quick because we wanted to have some Q&A. We like it to be interactive. So a lot of these you might know. Different types, and this doesn't encompass everything, but you have the 50-50 partnership where everything's divided equally. Debt, equity, profits, workload, everything is an equal distribution between, however many partners there are. This is probably the most difficult partnership to maintain. It's what Dan and I do. We are 50-50 on everything, and it's the most difficult because there's always someone that thinks the other person's either not doing enough work or someone that thinks he's doing more work than the other person. And we'll get into that here later on how to overcome that. Active silent partnership, you have your active partner who would be the sponsor. He'd be in charge of day-to-day operations, find and structure the deal. We are always the sponsors normally, or the active partners in what we do, or our LLC is the active partner. And then you have your silent partners who are they're just capital, they're equity, they're infusing equity. And they're much more focused on ROI, and they're silent. So they're not involved in the day-to-day. They probably don't have any voting rights within the LLC. Yes. Sorry. I'm not talking loud enough. Okay. I apologize. Sorry, podcast. It is. I know. I just use my voice to project. Lastly, we would do like a debt and equity hybrid, which would be most of your syndications. 29 East King Street was this model where we were the active sponsor, and then we had investors that came in. They got a guaranteed rate of return, but they also got shares of the LLC as well. Flippers do this occasionally too, where they have an investor partner that gives the capital for the purchase and the renovation, but that they get a portion of the proceeds at the end. All right. This is you. Yes, so I have to give this back. Question for you guys, and this is probably only Chuck here at this point, but have any of you guys had a partnership fail? You have. So there's 2. Can you give us some reasons why it failed? 3?
Yeah, I saw 3.
Okay.
I think the main reason might be that one person thinks they're doing more than the other one.
Right.
The other one thinks
Say that.
they're doing just as much.
So one person thinks they were doing more. Yes. Chuck?
I think
At the beginning?
At the beginning,
Yeah.
that then resulted in those same thoughts of, oh,
Correct.
you should be doing this. And be like, what do you mean I should be doing this?
Yep.
You should be doing this and that.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so we'll get into that.
So go for it.
So here we are, talking about partnership skeptics. We hear all the time that we are a ticking time bomb, that someday he's going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed and be really, really ticked off, call me and say it's over. Reality is at this point, with the amount of debt that we have, it's all good debt, but he's married to me for a long time. So, and he's just going to have to like it. People ask all the time, like, have you killed each other yet? I mean, yeah. Are you still in part? Like, I had a guy literally a week and a half ago in my living room doing some trade work, and he's known us both. Like, his wife taught us in like elementary school, and he's like, he hadn't talked to him in a long time. He sees him more than he sees me, and he's like, so are you in Kris? Like, he does this. He's like my kids are gonna hear and be upset. He's like, are you and Kris still in business? Like, are you? And I'm like, yeah, we're in business. Like, we're doing fine. And it's just funny because we've been in business now 5 years. And we've known each other since 4th grade. That helps. We kind of knew standards. We're going to get into that a little bit more, having clear expectations. But people, he said, wow. He's like, wow, I can't believe that. Because we were childhood friends. I mean, he was the older brother to one of my best friends. So we maybe fought a little bit when we were kids, but like I hung out with I knew him and his family, and kind of his values, but we didn't get into real estate till later. So
It shows people's perception of partnership. It's never positive.
And the reality is there's been, I'm sure, a million different studies. 70% of REI partnerships will fail one way or another, and it's probably due to what you said back there, sir. Like somebody didn't communicate, and you were swinging the hammer a whole lot more, and this guy's sitting on the beach, or something like that. He didn't show up to work that day because he wanted to go golfing, and I think the fear of that, the fear of failure, is what drives us to not do it again, or to, if somebody suggests it. I have several friends, we have a lot of friends, I hope they would say the same about us, but we have lots of acquaintances in the real estate world and they're like, I would never do that in a million years because this, and this, because that happened last time, or I got, short-ended by something. And then the other side of that is why would you? Why would you split the profits? Why, I could make a whole lot more money, excuse me, on my own. I was in the trades. I probably should have stayed in the trades. I look back, I called someone the other day to like see what they're paying like a going trimmer. It was like twice what I was making because everyone quit the trades after the crash, and I went out on my own right at the crash. So, anyway, I could be making a whole lot more money without him, if he wasn't in the picture, right? The partnership will cause increased strain on an existing relationship, right? Fortunately, I didn't really care about him that much previous to our relationship. No, we hadn't, cared about him. I knew his brother. We got together at Christmas. We're like brothers, but like he and I have gotten significantly closer because of this relationship. But it was kind of more, I guess, like rekindling like a friendship that we would have had as children, but not really had gone into any sort of business with it. So, I bring more to the table, right? No. No, it's a give and take, and like right off the bat, like, we were both at a place that we needed each other's expertise when we ran into each other, and it was a point where, I had to be selfless to say, okay, and that's where it comes back to marriage and all these other things in life. If you can promote selflessness and just wake up and be like, how am I going to benefit our business so that his wife and kids eat well today, or whatever, and our wives, we didn't mention our wives are back there. My beautiful wife, Pam, and then Renee, so they're fantastic. They've hung on for the ride that it has been. We've had some bleak times in the past, but they are constantly the win in our sales, which is really awesome. So, but yeah, we have, and he did the same thing. He had deals when I met him, and he could have been like, yeah, screw you, I'm not giving you my deals, but I had money. Not that I'm independently wealthy. I had beat feet and I had knocked on doors for 3 years at a time saying, hey dude, when are you gonna lend me money? And I didn't have deals. I was just cold calling for money. He was cold calling for deals, and it just kind of ended up, and I probably jumped ahead there. But
it's important to note that it's your perception too.
Yeah.
Like I would bring more to the table. I would make a heck of a lot more money if you weren't here.
Yeah.
It's your perception of what you think is reality. So you don't know who the other person is yet. You don't know who that question mark is.
Right.
And the reality is, I would challenge that if you partner right, you would make more. And that's what we'll get into here.
Yeah. So Michael Eisner says, it is rare to find a business partner who is selfless. If you are lucky, it happens once in a lifetime. And I sure hope it's once in a lifetime. For him, we don't really look back. We've made it through kind of a bunch of fire, and maybe getting through some of the other side. I mean, my phone was blowing up while I was coming here because one of my tenants is pissed off at another tenant, and I can't do anything about it. And no, I wasn't in your unit, but there's boot tracks in my unit. I don't know who's in your unit, and I'm supposed to come and do this presentation. So there's things that we all as real estate investors have seen kind of the grimy part of it, the stuff that you can't control, and you're still stuck getting your phone blown up, whichever side of real estate you're on. So you're not alone.
So how do we pick a successful real estate partner? I forgot to put successful in there. And that should be definitely in there. Well, number one, they have to be attractive. Absolutely. Which we have that covered 100% clearly. But I don't mean just on the outside, I mean on the inside. Did you like that? Yeah, Dan hasn't probably seen all this. All right, what does that mean? So for Dan and I, you got to have similar values. And I'll say this, for Dan and I, it's our faith. We were brought together, we both had a core value of faith in God and God directing our lives. It can work if you're both atheists. I think if you're divided in that arena of that core belief of where you came from and who you are, it can cause friction. And it's also something that we can always fall back on whenever we are getting divided. Whenever you have something core to hold you guys together, it's always easier during difficult times to fall on that whenever you're disagreeing on the small things. Similar life stage and goals. It's not necessary, but this is absolutely helpful. You have 5 kids under 11? Yeah, 5 kids. Good job, Pam. And we have 3 kids under the age of 6. And, some people call that hell on earth. We call it a blessing. We enjoy every minute of it. And both me and him, we fall on the same line in that family's first, and it's all about family. If we were divided on that, and I didn't have any kids, and I didn't have a wife, again, major friction is going to come from it, and I can guarantee it. We both value time, 100%. I can't put this on it enough. We value time over money, and as weird as that sounds, our time is worth so much more than money. We delegate the same way. If one person was all about making money, and the other person was concerned about the time that was spent, again, it's going to implode. I can guarantee it. So these are core things that you guys got to hopefully see eye to eye on. Complementary skill set. It should fill a distinct void or meet a specific need. Whenever you are analyzing a business partner, there's got to be something that they bring to the table, okay, that you don't have or you're not good at. You don't want 2 people that can do the exact same things because you're gonna run into issues. Dan and I, there's a lot of things we are very similar on, but then there's things that we're very different on that is very helpful. For a foundation story. So whenever we first got together, he touched on it a little bit. I had gotten 4 deals under contract. I had 4 residential houses under contract at a crazy price, really good deal, and I had no money whatsoever. And I was always told, find the deal and the money will find you. And I was coming down to crunch time. It was coming down to crunch time, and I was like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I can't close on these. And I knew Dan. I knew he was in real estate, and I saw him at a class party, something like that. We were talking, and I started talking about these deals. And he's like, dude, I literally have like $300,000 on a handshake. I already took the money, and I have nowhere to place it. And I was like, light bulb. Why don't we partner on these and just see how it goes? And the rest was history. That's what we did. He brought the money. I had sourced the deals, and that's how it went. It was a complementary skill set. I sourced deals. I'm good at negotiation. He was great on the money side of things and the contracting side of things for flipping the deals. Complementary personality traits. I think, no, that wasn't you. Never mind. Sorry. I thought it was a conversation I had with you. I had a realtor call me one time, and we were selling a flip that was brand new, gorgeous flip. Nothing wrong with it. And it was the day of settlement. And my realtor called and said, hey, they're doing the walkthrough. This is an hour before settlement. And they have this laundry list of items.
It wasn't one.
That were absurd.
17.
Absurd things. And they wanted a monetary contribution that was pretty much equal to what they offered at the beginning, way back when. So they were just trying to get their original offer price. And my part of the relationship, I can get angry. Like I get very in your face. I can be very aggressive. And I said to the realtor, I said, listen, I was like, you know what you need to do right now? You need to call Dan because I'm irrational. And I'm the FU guy in this relationship, and I will say, screw them, they can walk. And I was like, call Dan right now. And I basically, I hung up on her.
Up the phone, just talking real.
Yeah.
He was so angry.
Oh, I was so mad.
Angry.
And so she called Dan. We gave the monetary contribution, and we settled.
We met, we negotiated, but it wasn't worth throwing away.
Yeah. So
That's right.
when we made money. So if it was just me, I wouldn't have made anything that day. Yes, Chuck.
Just on that slide, as you wrap it up, I mean, it's very, right there in the middle, similar life stage and life goals. My partner was older, single and divorced.
Yep.
You know, in a different line of work. I'm working full time, newlywed. You know, have a wife and that type of thing. So the expectations,
Yeah.
pulling each other away was.
That's huge. That's
Really that was the wedge that just kept getting hammered until it cracked.
Right. Yep.
That was huge for us. Like, I don't feel bad when the kids are sick.
No.
I'm like, sorry, bud. And he goes and does his thing. And we're not together every day, which also helps. But yeah, we understand.
Yeah.
It's just life
It's an understanding. That's all it is. All right. Have similar management styles. See eye to eye on the big things. Definitely necessary. I think you got to have, it kind of goes along with your core value. You got to see eye to eye on the big things as far as what you're buying, when you're selling, capital distributions, so that whenever you do have the disagreements on the small things, it's not as big. It's not as much of an issue. Good chemistry. Again, not necessary, but absolutely helpful. One benefit that I've seen with us, and this isn't something you're going to always find, is we do have good chemistry. When we're with a group of people, we can command a room, and that pays very large dividends as far as people see the authenticity there. You got to be authentic, kind of with your business partner, and they see that, they're drawn to it. He'll get into that, I think, a little later about how that actually brings us more deal flow.
You ever take a disc test and compare your style?
I have, but
Give me that thing.
I don't know. I think I'm a D, right?
I don't know.
What am I, Dan?
I don't know.
I think we're probably both D's.
Something like that. Yeah. So the advantages of a successful REI partnership. People take you seriously. It was like a really big thing that we saw. I was up against like a ceiling when I hit 14 units. I didn't have the banks. Up until like a year ago, our tax returns looked like we lived in a van down by the river. It takes a lot. We're both from both of our dads are pastors, okay, and wonderful people, didn't make a whole lot of money, okay. So we're not riding daddy's wave. We had to go get the money, find the money, get liens on things, and we were doing that kind of thing moving forward. And to be able to like link arms with somebody and say, hey, this is my business. All of a sudden, you sound like you're a lot bigger than what you are. It's perception. It really is. It's perception. People are like, oh, you have a business partner, and like you've been in business a couple years, and what did you do? And you can speak, about his assets, my assets. You can kind of combine them. You can talk about each other's stories, and it's not embellishing anything. It's just it legitimizes things. Than just some guy named Dan. Looks like a pirate drives in and says, "I want to buy your place," and that's a big thing.
I would say it was more advantageous to me, and I only had 4 single-family homes. You had 12 units, and you had some in Florida, so I'd always be like, "Oh, I got stuff."
Yeah, we have investments in Florida. He would pump that up a little bit. I'm like, let's just be real. There's like 3 little rentals, but it works because people go, "Oh, you have places in Florida?" Yeah, we flew to Florida, we bought some stuff, and now we own it. So it's one of those things you can build on it. So, partners in trials. We call it the distribution of the shit hits the fan moments. There have been some times.
And I will say that since we're 50-50, that's only 50% of the shit.
Yes. 50% less is a lot better. We have been up to our ears in lots of different substances. Danielle, our wonderful property manager, had to walk through this with us. We had 17 inches of rain in 36 hours at a place that is built on slab, and the water's just going to come up. Like there was nowhere. Yeah, they were renovated 6 months before this, like brand new everything, plumbing, heating, electric, and we had 2-3 inches of water in there. There's like a little video. He's going to try and click it. Yeah. It's absurd. It was just absurd. We couldn't make it stop. I mean, you can't stop raining. We were there. We're like, well, okay, we'll just go up with our shop vacs and start. And he and I were sitting there in this unit. We found the source, just like the spring underneath the oven, of course. And we were sitting there with 2 shop vacs, like commercial shop vacs, and it was coming out faster than the 2 of them. We sat there for, it was just under, it was like 55 minutes, and I was like, dude, forget this. Like just get her a scuba tank, and we'll go home, and we'll call her in the morning. And she, all the while, was like trying to like calm these people's nerves, like, it's fine. And I'm like, no, it's not fine. And we were there till 1 in the morning. We're calling, our wives didn't know if we were swimming down the highway. It was a disaster. But you know what? I had a picture. Do you have another picture there or no? You don't have any more. I take, there's one at the end. I try and savor those moments because I am still like the glass is half full. That's another thing complimentary. I'm glasses half full. He is most often glasses half empty. There's a good part to each one of that. Like that, I always come across as like the happy-go-lucky guy. It is not always sunshiny. I promise you. I feel like it is, but in reality, some days are really, really terrible. But I get to talk him off the ledge when there's 3 inches of water. Sell it off, forget this, we'll go back to our jobs. No, let's pump the brakes, buddy. So it's like there's
one thing that's been beneficial is we get angry at different things, and that's just happenstance. You're not going to know that, but it's been helpful that yes, he talks me off the ledge probably a lot more often, but whenever he does get mad, I'm like, not even that big of a deal.
And we laugh about it because most of the time it's not very consequential. It's just what we get angry about.
This is another one.
This was really bad. We went under contract with a roofing contractor who was literally a crackhead. We did not know it. He came on recommendation from, I guess, other crackheads. We thought that they were like they own like 500 units. Like we knew them. They sell owner finance to us. Like they were good guys, and they're like, yeah, use this guy. We've used him for years. And like took our $5,000, ripped off our roof, and left.
He scrapped all the AC units that were out there. Disappeared for a week, and we're in Lancaster, so we weren't there.
This is up in Lebanon.
We were in touch. It was great.
And it rained like 6 inches that weekend.
Yeah, we got called.
We had people, and we're like, what do you mean there's no roof? And they're like, no, there's actually no roof. I can see out of my living room. You're like, what? Like we didn't know it because he told us like the things like getting done, and we hadn't gone up there that week because we had 72 other things going on, like everyone does. And so, it was an absolute crap fest. It was so terrible.
No insurance money, and what I will say is having a business partner in times like this, greatly reduces your heart attack risk.
Yeah.
100%.
There was some talking down for both of us. We were both pretty angry about that.
But
So,
we get through it together.
yeah. So, we wouldn't be here today without each other. We do motivate each other. You know, when he's down, I'm up, and vice versa. We also like feed on things like when he has, and it goes back to this first idea he's about to tell. But like when we catch an idea, we're willing to, you know, take that risk together and like fan it into flame. So I'll allow you to. Do you want to do
One
this?
story that we have is back at the beginning. Sorry. Back at the beginning, one of our first properties, this was after we formed our partnership, flipped the 4 deals, and we got, I was sitting at F&M's computer, and I was like, you know, we were gaining a little more momentum. We were flipping more. I think we had a couple other flips under contract. I said, why are we just flipping? Like, we got to be able to do more. And so I started looking on LoopNet, which don't ever find a deal on LoopNet. I will tell you that right now. You could probably do it in 2015 because still like nobody was really buying a whole lot. But it was starting to pick up momentum. And this deal was on there. It was 30 units in Manheim, and he was asking like $1.3 million. And I said, you know, we literally, I think we had $30,000. That was the total amount of money we had in our savings. And I said, why not? Why can't we? And I remember calling Dan from that computer and being like, because I was struggling. I was like, do you think we could go after this? Do you think we could get this? And he's like, well, I mean, do you think we could? It's like, I mean, I think so. I think so too. And it fed on each other. And then you start developing this like, why not? Why can't we? And long story short, we got the seller to hold a 30% second mortgage. The bank brought the other 70%. We brought no money to the deal except closing costs, which was $30,000. And no, I can't give you that lender's name. He would kill me. He said, I'll never do this again. But we still own it. It's one of our best cash flowing properties today. And we wouldn't have done it. I guarantee you I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have a business partner to talk me up. And that was it. Anyway.
Okay. So, branding and authenticity. HGTV does it. We have no aspirations to do that. People are always like, you could be the property brothers. Like, nope, thanks. I tell people all the time, if there's a thing called smell-o-vision, all you guys have been there. There's something called smell-o-vision, like Chip and Joanna Gaines would be broke. Flipping is not, you smelled some stuff, right? We found a raccoon after 3 days. We didn't know what the smell was, and it was like after the 3 layers of stank in the basement, and we were like, why are there fleas in here? There must have been the cats. And like, it was just this horrid
We have many stories.
rodent murder scene in the basement. It was terrible. Anyway, so, HGTV does it, but, they sell that because of their authenticity. Chip is just Chip, good old Chip, and Joanna's the same way. Like, and all those people, I think they're, yeah, but it's 2 people. They create that partnership and creates deal flow. I mean, often we are both talking to the realtor I think the private sellers are actually even more, the realtors are kind of a little bit more like they have a box and you just have to call them and make an offer and that's that. But when it's a private seller, when you're marketing yourself to somebody something that's off market, it often will really help to have 2 perspectives. And going on to the next point is the advantages of having a good guy and a bad guy. This is Chris and Dan to a T. Like, Chris is pissed off about losing $1,000 on the deal, and I'm sitting over here like thrilled that we like sold the house. We actually do, like, before we go to every deal. So fantastic. He found that on YouTube the other day. It's like, oh my gosh. Go ahead. Well, so when we go to a property or to a deal or we're negotiating, like from the get-go, like when we're pulling up, good guy, bad guy, that's what we decide. And are you talking or I'm talking? So whoever's talking is the good guy, whoever's not talking as a bad guy. Like I'm just in the background, like, Like you ever seen The Office with Dwight Schrute when he's like in the boss's, and he's like, it's like a mansion, it's like $1 million mansion. He's like checking to make sure the spindles are tight and like checking the reveals and the heating system and stuff like that. Like, you do that to create some sort of a sense of. It's not that extreme, but like you do that to create a sense of like, okay, they know what they're doing, and they're confident that one guy. I don't know. There's a confidence in that. So.
All right, one quick thing. One thing that I've noticed that's great that you can do with being in a partnership is during negotiations, whenever trying to buy a property or lease negotiations with a commercial tenant or tenant negotiations. There's been many times whenever. An example would be a tenant that wasn't paying the rent, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm on your side. I really am. But the partnership, they're just going to evict you. That's what it's going to come to. But I'm doing everything in my power. And they think, and you are on their side. I don't want to sound like I'm not, but it's a much easier way to put the blame on somebody else. And it's all a matter of who gets shot first. I don't know who it's going to be. It's probably be me. I think I was the bad guy more often than not.
Yeah, and it's just back to it brings different perspectives. We look at things when we wake up in the morning. He's way over in New Holland. He has a different view than me, and I'm down in Strasbourg, and that's just being a little figurative. But we look at things different. But when he brings me a deal, he says, "Hey, what do you think about this, this, and this?" And I will often bring a piece that he didn't think about, or like this, that, or the other thing, and vice versa. Like, hey, how about this? He's like, nah, that's crap. Don't even bother. And I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't see that zero was missing. And so there's always something that the other person can bring. But again, it comes back to the selflessness thing. And I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but it's just being willing to try and benefit the other person so that we can further this machine together, I guess. So. Yeah, you can do it.
Was it you? All right, final tips for a successful REI partnership. Exactly what he just said. Be selfless. I can't stress it enough. Where's Chuck? Should Chuck leave? He was like, this is boring. Yeah. I can promise you if both parties were being selfless, it would have stood the test of time. Secondly, identify what's expected from each individual early on. Exactly what Chuck was talking about. Expectations. If you can identify what your strong suits are early on and talk about them, don't just assume, you're going to go a lot further. Keep it simple. Don't look at every detail in the beginning of the partnership. As you grow, fine-tune responsibilities and business structure. For us, when we got together, it was all guns blazing, and we did not talk about any of this stuff. I remember when we bought a lot of properties in the last 4 or 5 years. So it didn't matter. We had no structure. We had no organization. It wasn't until probably within the last year that we've really honed in on what are you exactly doing.
We started setting goals like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
We started sitting down on the front porch and okay, what are we doing?
Yep.
So that helps.
It does. As you go, you can fine tune that. And then we developed his facilities. Everything that he does has to do with facilities. I'm negotiating, underwriting, and basically administration, paying bills and all of that stuff. So you can fine-tune that as you go. Don't focus on your partner's inadequacies. If you're in a partnership, clearly there's going to be inadequacies from the other person. It's so easy to look at the other person and say, why can't he do what I'm doing? Why aren't you doing what I'm doing? Why can't you do that? Why aren't you as good as what? That defeats the point entirely. He shouldn't be good at what you do. He needs to be good at something that's different than you. And that's what you need to focus on. Don't focus on the inadequacies of what that person has. Set goals together. I can't stress that. I'm sure you guys have heard that, yearly goals. We've been setting goals since 2016. I thought it was 2016, but maybe it was 2016. We'll say 2016. I set goals before Dan. I never would hit them. I've set goals after Dan. We've hit them every year. This year's it's very hard to visualize that we might actually hit. Because we're going to go for broke. All right. Lastly, don't take things too seriously. We never do. Like I said, we joke beyond belief. This is at Longview Apartments right there. That was during the thick of it. That is actually sweat. And this is a typical example. This was whenever the shit hit the fan, and Dan's like, yeah! And I'm clearly like, what are you doing? So I was sulking in the corner. Yeah, that's when I had a migraine. Anyway. You gotta have some humor. It will definitely help the partnership if you can laugh about things. So thank you very much, guys. I will say if you ever want to reach out to us, our email is foundationalinvestors@gmail.com. We're always looking for deals. Don't send us we're looking for flips. We still flip occasionally, but we're always looking for large deals. So if anybody has any, we also partner with people. Please reach out to us. So that is it. Thank you, gentlemen. And ladies. Sorry. Yeah.
Can we do Q&A?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Q&A. The whole reason we're here. What? I don't know. No, go ahead, Chad.
I'd like to hear.
I will. Yeah.
So could you give us an example of a deal where having two people got you through the deal and one would not have? So.
Our very first deal. That for sure. Say it again. Okay, an example of a deal that we got through because there was two of us. 29 East King Street. I'll use that as an example. 29 East King. I'd say every commercial deal that we've gone up a level, it's been helpful to have a partner.
Talk us through the deal.
Okay, so 29 East King Street was vacant, and if you have anything to add, just
Basically vacant. It was
20%. Yeah, 20% full. Not a whole lot going on.
bleeding about $15,000 a month.
Yeah,
It was terrible.
I put it $10,000 to $15,000 a month, and we borrowed all the money for that. So 29 East King is a commercial property that was completely 80,000 square feet of office space downtown Lancaster, vacant. There was many people that said we were stupid.
I said we were stupid.
He did. I thought we were stupid, and I remember getting it under contract, 'cause it's all about the contract. You can always walk from it. We do that all the time. We're like, let's just get it under contract, see what happens. Got it under contract, got an incredible deal. Definitely the Lord's favor there. Got it under contract, bleeding $15,000 a month, borrowed all the equity from investors because our investors believe in us. So you have that aspect of like, oh, holy crap. And I remember thinking to myself, because I am the pessimist, thinking this isn't going to work. Like I looked around and I saw spaces for lease downtown. I was like, this ain't happening. We got to walk from this. We can't sustain this, right? And I remember going up on the roof with Dan and just looking out over the buildings of downtown Lancaster, and we looked over at the Marriott that's adjacent. They're building 300 more rooms. 101 NQ that just had the ribbon cutting was building up. Cargus was coming downtown. Fulton building right next to us was bringing 300 employees. And I remember Dan and there was one other guy that was part of our partnership. He's like, dude, just look around at the construction, man. Like it's a no-brainer. You know, yes, we might be bleeding, but it's a no-brainer. It's the path of progress. The money is flowing downtown. And for me, I would never have bought that. I don't know if that explains it. It's I don't know what you would call that. It's
a strength in numbers thing.
Strength in numbers.
On the days we're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
On the days that he was confused, I wasn't, and vice versa, we kind of brought clarity to each other. And honestly, we were able to bring equity partners that, packed a pretty decent punch. And they believed in us. I really don't know why, because it was an empty building. But there was some. What's that? We found a full building, basically full. We didn't find it. I mean, we did, but it was through our realtors. But yeah.
So like the realtor had brought Woodstream through previous to us being there. The people that owned the building was a philanthropic trust out of Philadelphia that was an absentee landlord, managed billions of assets. And essentially, trying to think how that went down. No, they had said that Woodstream was there, and he said they're big on landlord relations. So Dan and I capitalized on our partnership and being able to, we're just likable people. I mean, maybe you're smiling at me, so maybe not.
Yeah.
But whenever we meet people, we can engage them. We're engaging. We took them out to, I said, get the CEO in here with the CFO and COO. All three of them came down. I want to personally give them a tour. We personally gave them a tour. Told them what we're going to do to the building, how much capital we're infusing. Then we took them to Andy Bailey's and had got them drunk.
No. they were decided probably well before that. But they did want a present landlord, and
It was the
that's
relationship.
what we were doing.
Again,
Yeah.
I think it's because both of us were in the picture.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened if it was just one. Any other questions? Yes. I don't know who was first. I'll go to you first.
Do you guys do things independently on your own with the partnership? You're like, I'm gonna go buy this house, I don't think it fits well with the partnership. Or you guys like every single thing we move forward with, we're doing it together? And then at one follow-up.
So the question is, do we do things separately outside of the partnership now that we're in business together? I have not. I don't know. You're probably like selling Legos on the side or something. Actually, he does. He sells these stickers. These what are they? I'm not trying to out you. He sells these skiing and snowboard like resort stickers for like stupid money. Like anyway, I'm like, it's a sticker, people. Anyway. Side business. We don't. No, we don't. It's been like pedal down because I value so much of what he brings, specifically in the diagnostic part of the deal. That, I mean, I was buying properties, and that was when you could buy a $30,000 unit in downtown Lancaster and get $750 of rent. That's not happening anymore. The rent's gone up, but the price has gone up a lot. And so, excuse me. When we started, he just brought so much even more like book smarts to it, just because that's all he did in the back of the box truck. I was the guy that was like, yeah, this is going to take $40,000 to fix, and we're going to be able to rent it for blank, or we're going to be able to sell it for this, or I can look at a building, and because of my trades background, that's what I brought. So, cost of construction, all that stuff. So, what was your follow-up?
You guys have mentioned other partners.
Yeah.
Right now, your company is just you two, right?
Yes, our parent company is just us. We bring in equity partners, people that just have a big checkbook.
Silent partner.
Silent partners.
So they have no.
So we do have 3 partners, specifically in that large King Street deal. We had to put in like the bylaws of the LLC or whatever you want to call it, the formation documents that like we couldn't go and buy a speedboat with the rent that Woodstream is. Like we had to put some checks and balances in there, but they basically have no say. We let them have a say because we actually really value their experience. They're in a completely different life stage than us. And so it's actually brought some really great conversations and confrontations and all the rest. It's always been productive, but we're the boss though.
We're always the primary, we're always the sponsor.
And some of those other partners would have a percent equity in that building itself.
Correct.
Not necessarily the partner.
Correct.
That building we own 80%, they have about 20%.
And we formed a second LLC for that. We still, our parent company manages that building. Just honestly, throw us some more cash, and we needed to have somebody manage it. So that pays me to go down and fix that flickering light bulb in somebody's office, and I don't actually do that anymore. But like we're working on trying to delegate those things. And when somebody, I always tell people like when we're throwing when we're like selling a flip, like I take pride in my flips. It's not like a lipstick on a pig. Like I really try and do them well. That's just how I was raised, and that's what I do as a tradesman. And sometimes we've been like well over budget because I can't sleep at night thinking that miter isn't tight or whatever. And that is a downfall in certain parts of the real estate economy, but I'm not willing to do that. That said, when we go to settlements, I'm like, I've never slept at this house, so good luck. I hope, you can, sometimes if I can tell that people aren't going to call me very much, but you can call me like if there's a squeaky hinge or something like that, what's going on. In an 80,000 square foot building, it's definitely been a learning curve. There's some squeaky hinges, and we're like, what? Like, I don't even know where it is. Like, we have to go find it. And so it's been honestly, it's been a nice challenge to try and figure something out like that, like heat zones and things of that nature that are just horrible. Anyway.
Yeah. You had a question in the back.
Oh, yeah, he had his hand up first. Go ahead.
You're trying to work more on your business instead of in your business, right? So you're more
Yes. The delegation is definitely, we're pushing for that. I mean, we're pushing each month. We're trying to push other things out.
Hands on deck with us too, and that's the way it should be. I think if you're developing something, I think a lot of businesses, I I mean, I've known so many partnerships that failed, or even just business in general that failed because they take too much of the salary. They delegate so much that they stretch their route so thin that they can't make it work. So.
And we were pushing like fix and flips. Like he was in the back of a box truck. I was a trades guy. I took a little bit more of a cut. So this is like a kind of an interesting like study on like the inequality that you can have. Like we were both pushing for something. But I'm like, dude, you have a job. I'm self-employed. Like I stopped taking on like kitchens, and Uncle Bill wanted me to do a $40,000 pool room or whatever. That's great, but like I chose to go this way, so I'm gonna have to, because I don't have any other income, I'm gonna have to get a smaller. I think it was like 30-70 or 60-40 or something like that for a little while on some of the flips before he started coming out on his own with me, and then we swinging a hammer. I mean, he was really impressive, actually. I taught him how to put replacement windows in, and after the first one, he did like 30 on this one job. I was really impressed. But he has more skill than he knows. But not all that stuff comes handy. It comes right away. But we have been, like, even that, you said, like, trying to work on the business versus in the business. Like, I told him, I was like, I really don't want to flip anything. Like, our last flip was, like, our third flip out of 45 or something like that we delegated the whole thing. Like, just said, I'm not touching it, and we still touched it. I went and did the windows because the window guy quit on us, so I had to go put in 12 windows because the painter was coming on Monday. So you do things to get through, but for the most part, we're trying to get away from like the swinging of the hammer. So often will take away your focus from what you actually should be doing. Not always, but it can really detract from, okay, you should have bought that 30 unit, or you're using this cash to flip this property, when if you would have just held that cash, you would have found this deal the next week. It's sometimes it's just happenstance, but sometimes it's really just focusing and being like, no, we're not. We've actually said that. No, we're not taking that deal. It's a deal, but we're not taking it because we really want to go after this. And it's that constant revisiting what our focus is. And we have done, like, kind of guns a-blazing. Yeah, it was any and everything.
I stress that if you're just starting out, and even with a business partner, you got to be all guns blazing. And there might be inequality on who's doing more work or not, and that's just what it is.
And it was willingness, and he was willing to do that. Like, we had to talk about it, and we talked about it up front, and it wasn't long till we got him up to speed and stuff. So, Tim was going to say something.
About King Street LLC.
Go ahead.
You answered that.
You answer? Okay.
Before
A separate entity, yeah. For something that's that large, it was very difficult because we already had holdings in Firm Foundation, so it was very difficult to throw a huge building equity partners in. Yeah.
You have to form a new LLC.
Yeah. Yeah. Tax people will look at you cross-eyed otherwise. So, and we don't know everything about tax code either. We've royally screwed things up. So we're learning. Like, call the tax guy first. That's a good one. We should have put that on here, but.
What did we screw up?
Oh, just
we paid
things like.
transfer taxes twice on $2 million.
Yeah, that sucked.
Because we put it in the wrong LLC. There was a property that we.
Well, we were going to flip it, and then we ended up renting it.
Longview. We got a great deal on it, and then we renovated it, got it all rented. We're like, dang, this is actually a really good property. We want to hold this, and we switched out without talking to our accountant, or I don't think we talked to anybody. We switched it to Firm Foundations, and he's like, you're gonna pay transfer taxes.
I think our accountant, like, honestly almost died. Like she was just like, you what? Like, say this again. And like, I wrote it on a paper, and she's like, oh my God. Like, she called our tax, because we had a bookkeeper and then the actual CPA.
That's
and
like
like,
20 grand.
oh, they stared at us so mean. It was not.
I'd probably be pissed.
Oh, we were both pissed. Anyway. So, it's not all been roses. What were you saying? Sorry.
Would you do separate LLCs for, like, say, a rental? You do an LLC, you have Firm Foundations with this one, so just to protect yourself?
Separate LLCs to protect yourself with rentals. I mean, not every property. There is a nice,
We had about 60 units in Firm, I think spread across 3 buildings,
right.
give or take. I don't really worry about that stuff. I think, yes, you don't want 1,000 units in one LLC. I don't even know that you want 100 units in one LLC. We will form, they're easy. It's easy to form an LLC. It's just more bookwork, for your accountant. But
I'm also kind of the mindset, like, if somebody, like, is really out to get you, they're going to go and try it. They're going to figure it out. Like, I mean, I'm not a doomsdayer, but like if Mr. Putin wants my information, he'll probably figure it out really quick. I don't think, I'm not getting political here. I'm just saying like there's, I don't know. There's a way to get to people in this world, whether it's with lawyers, with technology, with what, just do your best, do your homework, you know, set a good password and
I still own properties in my personal name.
yeah.
And that's a no.
No. Sorry, Chuck, you were gonna.
So, from a perspective, going back to the putting sweat equity into it, you
Yeah.
said, okay, listen, I shut down my contracting business
Yeah.
in order to dedicate all of your working hours
Right.
and time to managing projects, et cetera.
Right.
Looking back, did you pay yourself? In other words, submit a bid to your own company and pay yourself for the value you were adding to those particular projects?
We did not pay ourselves along the way. We paid ourselves at settlement. He's asking basically if we took we made a bid for the jobs that we were doing within the flips. No, we would just basically tally all the expenses, take those out, and then whatever our profit was. It was not very comfortable at first. I was.
You did not get an extra fee for doing
No.
it.
No, I was not like marking up the bid and then also taking 60% of the profit.
Whatever
Yeah.
the profit was, he got 70%, I got 30%,
Right.
whatever I worked it out.
But I mean, he was creating the deal flow and still working a full-time job, feeding his family. And I was out there like smashing my thumbs, getting it done and running. I mean, we were doing like 5-6 flips at a time for basically a one-man show. I wasn't doing all the stuff, but I was just coordinating. I had a painter, I had all my trades, and then I did all the in-between stuff, and it worked out.
Yeah, so, I mean, the reason I asked the question is one way to do that would be to either time and material or
Right.
submit a bid and have your own
Right.
personal thing, so that, and still keep the 50-50 split.
Correct.
Of profit, so that
Correct.
way your total renovation budget still works out inside
Absolutely.
what you're expecting.
Right.
But that's one way to look at it from a fair is fair.
Yeah, yeah, and that would have been the way. When I was like out on my own, I was kind of a one-man show. Now I hate to paint, so I always had a painter, but I did a majority of the other stuff. I would bring in mechanical trades and stuff like that, but I mean, I hung my own drywall for a while when it was tight, and so the infrastructure for the bidding process when we were doing 5 at a time and he's calling me for 3 more would have bogged it down. So we just hit the ground running. I said, hey, painter, you're going to be here, here, and here for the next 3 weeks. And I just scheduled them. And because we knew rough numbers on what it cost back then. It's definitely gone up. But yeah.
A lot of people do it that way.
Right.
I think for us, and maybe it's weird, we're not focused as much on the quality, which is,
Yeah.
it is a miracle. Like, I don't, like at the beginning it was more, and plus I would occasionally help. So it's like, we didn't want to get an hourly rate. Like after I was done work, there was times, and you can ask my wife, she left too, she wasn't here.
Yeah. She gone.
Well, like, there's times I would go after work and I'd be helping them. So
Yeah.
it just bogged it down. We just came to the conclusion 70-30. Let's just do it.
But I mean, effectively, with some of these flips that we've done more recently, we had a contractor who did all of it.
Yeah.
And I went and put in a day on Windows. I didn't like sit at the table like, well, what the heck, man? Like it just was what it was. Like he was doing bookwork that day. So that's what we need to get done.
And the reason I ask the question is that, some newer folks that maybe haven't yet, gone through that experience
Yeah.
of evaluating the property, purchasing it, renovating it,
Yeah.
and, if you don't factor in and be like, oh, I can buy it at this price, and I can do all the work, and that'll save me money.
Right.
So you need to value your own time.
Right.
And just understand that perspective. The
Yeah.
value transition, or
Yeah.
transaction there was that weighted profit split.
Right. And he was admitting like, dude, he knew what a hammer was, but that was, he didn't know near as much as I did in trades. I had been in it for almost 15 years, so
Now
it's like,
shifting. Now
yeah.
it's shifting to more, I probably do more of the stuff, like
Yeah.
maybe not, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's starting to shift where Dan he's not swinging a hammer as much. So it's like, what do you do with that? What do you come.
Yeah.
We gotta find a place for you.
Yeah.
That's equal.
So I'm gonna go mop the floors next week, and there's a custodian job open at King Street. So sorry.
I could keep going on and on. If you can not focus on the equality aspect of it, if you're able to do that, if you're not able to do that, you know how you already need to talk about it up front.
Yeah.
We just wanted to grow. We wanted to grow at a rate that was crazy, and so we focused on hustling, and that's all we did. You know, it's
All hands on deck.
yeah.
I think there's one thing you guys didn't talk too much about that I know is really important to me. So I have a business marriage. We have good days and bad days.
Oh, yeah.
Many more good days than that. But I thought one thing, so we do project management. A lot of what we do is take over bad projects because someone else is failing at it. Either they just bought something that failed or they were self-managing. And I'll tell you, the worst things we ever find are when there's a trust issue in the partnership.
Yeah.
We took over a project in Reading where the one of the partners was stealing the security deposits to go gambling. Which sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But like in our business, so we sit on $2.5 million, $3 million of security deposits. And honest to God, if Nate, my business partner, he could have those tucked in Mexico somewhere and I wouldn't even know.
Right.
Like I never looked at the account once in my life. Some people are like, God, Chad, what are you doing?
Right.
I think that's good.
But right, so the point of my little soliloquy here, and I don't have a question at the end,
Good word.
is so one thing's been nice is I haven't had to spend a second like checking to see if Nate's like effing me behind my back.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
Which sounds ridiculous, but we've seen it happen so many times with partnerships.
Right.
And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that overall of how important that was to you, or how do you even think about it?
Right.
Because it's kind of something we didn't like think about that much until we saw it like fall apart.
Yeah.
And then you just realize like business partners have to be like checking the cents, the dollars, the millions of dollars to see if someone's screwing them. Like, God, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
And really scary.
It's a marriage. I mean, you sit here and think, is my wife cheating on me tonight? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I think like.
I would say there's two sides of it. Part of it is just that trust. Like, you know Nate well enough that, I mean, you sure hope you do. There is kind of like that trust, that faith, whatever. We were, but then on top of that, we were basically raised together. Like I knew him from like a very young age, and then on top of that, just like we do so much together. Like we're together 3 days a week, and on the phone. Like I mean, we should just have walkie-talkies. My gosh, we're on the phone a lot. I mean, you know all about that. It's just what we do, and we have to be on the phone. I mean, there's times we call each other like 4 times in an hour, and it's ridiculous. We should have just driven somewhere and talked. But you know, we're together so often. It would be hard for either one of us to go buy a speedboat and get away with it. You know.
That trust has never been broken. So
right.
Like, why would it? If you ultimately start off that way, you're setting yourself up.
The length of the relationship's interesting. I realize it's not quite in that way, but it does add another depth to the partnership.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
it does.
It's harder to screw someone that you've known since you're 6. I guess.
Right. That's very true. Like he is. I mean, he is effectively a brother. But then you see these people that like don't go to Thanksgiving because they all hate their brothers because he screwed him because he stole $10 in 8th grade. You know. So like there's still like family doesn't always matter. So it's just I think we've just come to it and that's that. So Mick, you were gonna say something.
Do you guys like because you started as friends before? Like, at what point did you sit down and have like a business exit strategy? Like,
Right.
those hard
Right.
questions?
We've talked about it once or twice. I think there is a beauty to real estate. So in broad strokes, I have a family member who was in business in a business partnership, and he basically swung the hammer twice as fast as the guy that was next to him, and they were 50-50. And after however many years, he was like, yo, man, like I'm swinging. It's just a natural fact. I'm a hustler, and it's not that you're not. You're just don't hustle as fast as me. And so it got unfair, and so he just like submitted his resignation, and that was that. Real estate, I've said this to a lot of people because the people that are like, oh, wow, you're still in business. Real estate is one of those things I feel that with like a good manager, you can put it, like if you're really invested in it and you're mopping the floors in the front, or you're tightening all the squeaky hinges. You can back away from that, still stay in business with one another, or say he gets hit by the Mack truck out there and it's now Renee and I in business. Like, in theory, there's a way. We're working on actually some exit strategies for, like, if he gets hit by the Mack truck. But there's the reality that we can both walk away. We could both walk away today, and Danielle and Chad should be able to manage a majority of the issues, not necessarily the accounting, but we could delegate the accounting and walk away. We haven't gotten there yet. It's a plan that we actually haven't. We were just walking down the street the other day and we were like, we got to get some more. Yeah, liquidating, right.
We have no plan.
No.
Exiting out of the partnership, and I don't know that, I mean, I don't.
We need to talk later. No.
Do
Yeah.
you guys take a salary right now?
We have started to take a salary. We did not. And you can call it whatever that is. I mean, I would effectively call it a salary. Yeah.
And that's equal.
Correct.
Okay. And you're not charging the company hourly?
No. We have not done that because up until this point, we are like, there's some days that I feel bad. Cause I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, well, I've been paying bills all day. And like, but then he's like, what were you doing? Yeah, well, and then there's some days that like I am out on my tractor. But then like there's some, like the other day we had this ridiculous commercial door malfunction with it was like half, like physically the door and half the security company. And I had to stand in like freezing rain for 3.5 hours with this guy who's just like, beep, boop, boop, boop. Like at this keypad. I was like, dude, why do I need to be here? But like, he wasn't there. He was sitting at home watching Disney with his kids, like, so it's again, that's a life stage thing. And I think it could really be different if he were like the old guy on the golf course or you were coming right out of high school and you needed to pay yourself all the time and you're trying to go to college or something like that. Because we're in the same life stage, it has really worked well.
Minimally, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, especially when you're starting something.
Yeah.
I would stress that, don't overextend.
Yeah.
Pay the absolute minimum you can do for the longest amount of time.
Yeah.
Why are you taking a salary instead of just paying like why salary
It's
versus?
all residual income, so it's dependent on how much rents are coming in. So it's capital distributions, so we.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not technically a salary.
No, that's why I paused on actual salary. Like we don't have a line item that's like, boom, that's your salary. But
it fluctuates
yeah.
with each property after a certain amount of time, you examine it, and how well are we doing.
Right, you want to keep some money.
Right. One of the things I'll actually say about, like, his dad came to me in, like, I saw him at Sears or something. I don't know. Sears is out of business, isn't it?
On its way.
Anyway, saw him at some place. And he's like, the one thing I'm impressed about you both, but specifically Chris, I didn't know how how you guys would pay yourselves. And like from other business interactions with other people, they often try and pay themselves first. And that was like the last thing we were trying to do. And we had different income streams. So we had our flips that were like feeding the kids, like keeping the lights on. But we were trying to build this monster. And in order to do that, like dude, that first, that place, the $1.3 million 30 unit, like we didn't take anything from that for like probably 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, when the heck are we going to do it? And he was just we talked about it and we both had those days like, hey, can we take a little or can we not? But like, it was like, no, let's stand pat. At some point you should take something because you need to be not just rewarded, but you need to eat. But we have stayed on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of paying ourselves. Still haven't paid ourselves at King Street. It's just what it is. King Street, everyone's like, wow, that building is like, yeah, it'd be nice if we got some money from it. Like it looks great, doesn't it? Like, but it hasn't done a darn thing for us. Like, at some point we will, but we're trying to dial it in, lock in all the construction loans. That construction loan is not finalized yet because they just tightened that last screw last week. So that trickles down for another 60 days, and then we'll have it figured out. So it's just those kinds of things. From the outside looking in, it looks real polished. But a lot of times it's just determination. It's just saying, nah, we're not going to do that today. We'll do it tomorrow, but we're not today. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
Are you guys a real estate agent?
No. And we've kicked that around left and right. One of the things early on, it was really beneficial, specifically, he should probably talk about it, but specifically when I saw him, he could go directly to the listing agent and figure out what's going on. And there is this trickle down, and there's realtors in the room. There is a watered down product, not just in Lancaster, but like all in this area. There are some really horrible realtors. I mean, like there just are. And then there's some really good ones. And you hear about the good ones that, yes, sir.
I call them real tards.
Yeah, real tards. Real tards. It's just, it's like you meet them and you're like, what? Why am I paying you the money that I'm paying you? So to only engage with one realtard instead of two is huge. And there's like this whisper down the lane thing where like if you can just get to the guy who's actually going to call the person who's selling the house or the person who's buying the house, it's a lot easier even if you're paying him more than if you were paying your buddy who was also the realtor. And so we wanted to not have that muddy the waters, being like, hey, I'm a realtor, what's your client? That at first that was what we were doing.
And we haven't gotten our license. I think the reasoning behind not getting, I've contemplated getting our license for the partnership, and I've had some hindrances on it simply because we've had so much success in going direct to the agent that has the deal. And I can say, hey, you know what, you get 6%. You know what I mean? You go through me, you're getting a full 6%, and they represent us.
It's unfortunate.
And I could probably do that even if I was a realtor, just hand
Right.
out my percentage, but like,
Do that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, be like, I'm the buyer.
Yeah.
So I'm here to purchase through you. I'm sacrificing my commission because I'm able to purchase the property. My profit comes from the property.
But most of us have had a realtor who won't even give us the time of day unless they're getting the 6%. Like if you would have another realtor or something, like it's just.
and when we really start selling stuff, which we're contemplating, I think it's going to be advantageous.
Yeah.
Just to save that 3%.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's some realtors that have made
lots of money on this.
more
That's all right.
money than it'll take us 5 years to make it.
Just to clarify that,
Yeah.
you guys don't have your own realtor then, you guys just call the seller.
He calls it, yeah. He did not have one person. I actually was, I had like this, I had to break up with my realtor, like mindset. Like I had this lady was in my mother-in-law's wedding. And like she was a lady we bought our first house from. And like she was a gem. She still is. She's a sweetheart. And like for like 2 years, like I bought a couple properties from her. She was fantastic. And like I thought it was like, you don't know this. There's not like, and this is when I was like wet behind the ears, like just trying to make ends meet. And I'm like, I'm going to have to call another realtor. And I called her and told her I'm not going to like sign any more contracts with you. And I felt like horrible. And she was like, great, that's awesome. So she was awesome. She still sends us a Christmas card, stuff like that. But like, it's just so much simpler now there's also value in commitment. Like, I'm not going to say that. Like, there's value in sticking with certain people for the long haul. What's that? If they're good and if they're bringing stuff. But you all, even the good ones.
Work harder than you when you're trying to find a deal.
Right. And even the good ones, at some point, maybe you need to turn a leaf and just like, let's try something else and go from there. So.
And to reiterate, though, there are many realtors who have been awesome at their
Oh my goodness, yeah. I don't look down on the whole profession. It's just there's some bottom feeders that are kind of rough. It's kind of rough, but anyway. Anybody else?
So what type of asset class are you guys focused in on? I think I heard some of the messaging where you're turning down on the flips. You know, is multifamily, is that kind of your sweet spot, or where are you headed for?
Multifamily is our bread and butter. Value add, I mean, we're actively looking for 100 to 200 unit. I mean, what everybody is looking for. I mean, it's very hard to come by. The market's crazy right now, so we're very opportunistic. Commercial, I'm looking at strip centers.
Look at value add. Anything that
Anything that
we
you
can
add value to. Our bread and butter, what we have done in the past is buy apartment complexes, either fix them up or get rents raised and sell them within,
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, we've done that twice, but that's what we enjoy doing. That's what we do. It's just flipping on a big.
But the man, like he cannot turn down a deal. So like we'll say like I'm saying today we're not flipping this winter. I was just talking to Jalen about that. Like, the man's gonna call me tomorrow morning at 6:15 in the morning. Dude, we gotta go. We gotta go, and we gotta be there at 8 o'clock because they're opening the doors, and we'll buy a freaking flip, and I'm gonna be swinging my hammer again because I'm the guy with the tools. He doesn't own any. So, like, and that's okay. We will delegate through that, and we'll work through it. But, like, it's funny, like, the moment you think you're going to sit back, and that's just who we are. We want to drive. We want to push. We want to acquire. We have goals. We're not going to make stupid acquisitions, especially at the top of a market here, or what it seems like a top of a market. So,
in the current market, if you haven't got into it, you have to be opportunistic. And people tell you that, find a niche and stick with it. And I promise you, you're going to find like one deal in a blue moon. If you can get good at knowing kind of the market and the different segments and like knowing the deal in each one of those segments, you're going to grow a lot faster. And I might be pushing against the grain on that. There's not many people that say that. But
I was just meeting with a guy this morning that was like, focus. Like, focus on 120 units, 15 to 20 million, and that's that. And I was like, good for you, bud. Like, that's if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. I'm like, man.
But then it's like, when did you last buy something? Well, I haven't really. Okay.
Yeah. Everyone's got their thing. Like, it's not for everyone, and it's not like we did it right.
So for the aspiring multifamily investors here in the room, not asking you to kind of do a presentation on the fly, but what are kind of the key and critical things to look for that would pass your litmus test to say, yeah, this is a deal?
Right.
I mean, kind of maybe crack open that man bun.
Good looking property. The man.
Multifamily behind the man bun.
My wife loves this, and I do it for her.
That's my one pick.
Yeah.
I won't deal with it.
Our one partner, like, at King Street, he's like a bodybuilder. Like, he's this man's man. Like, he could rip you and me apart together. And every single time we see him, he's like, what is that?
You look like a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's what he said. He talks like a pirate as well. But it's so funny. So funny. Just looks at him, just straight face. Anyway. He likes him.
I'm
It's
not
just
on social distance. I'm not on this. We're at social security. That's what I told my time. We have a lot of fun with our investors.
Yeah.
So.
Litmus test on
Yeah.
on the deal.
Multifamily. What I will say is a lot of people in here, I don't know what you guys look at, but if you do flips or you buy a single family property, it is no different. I can't, again, people say.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
For having us, guys.
It's fun to chat.
Tune in next time to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.